Welcome back, everyone. We're here with another product session, this time from Snowflake. I'm joined by Henrik. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Robert. My name is Henrik Nielsen. I'm a data architect in Snowflake. So working with our customers across Europe and the Middle East in defining architectures on Snowflake and other technologies in collaboration.
You do public sector, private sector, everything?
It's not really industrialized yet, my role, so I'm part of a global team where it's growing, but at one point we're going to be industrializing. Right now it's more generic across different
Snowflake's been around for a while. Would you say your customers are mature now on Snowflake, or they're still discovering all its abilities?
I think it's the rate of development is quite high in Snowflake, so the customers that we were onboarding 6 years ago when I started are at a very different place today, but the product is also at a very different place. Back then we were like the data warehouse built with the cloud, but things have changed a bit now, right? So it's now, there's generative AI, there's open table formats. I'm actually going to be talking a bit about that in the session, about these trends that we're seeing and how it's changing the way you architect.
So big changes at Snowflake as well.
Yes, that is part of it. It's not big changes, but it's like continuous change that we're seeing all the time with adding on new functionality, but building it into the platform as one, yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, take it away.
Yeah, so the topic of the session today is around, we call it architecting for disruption. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about why architecture is an important thing. Won't spend too much time on it today, but because it does define a lot what we're seeing, the trends that we're seeing today in the market. When talking to our 11,000 customers that we have across the board, some of them are smaller, but some of them are really big and have a problem around collaborating on data. How do they actually work with data so that they don't end up in silos, right?
Okay.
And as it is a product review, I am going to round off with what are the innovations that we're bringing to the table to actually support all the talk that I'm talking. They're actually also walking the walk, right? So if we go with the architecture is important, I think one of the things that you really need to be aware of, and I think everybody knows this, is that architecture is not only about design. And trust me, I know about this because my wife is an architect, and she says she's a real architect because she actually builds buildings,
right?
Or designs them at least, right? But also the thing is, the foundations are quite important there. So if you start building something that don't have the right foundations in place, that also applies not only to buildings that fall apart, but also to your data architecture or your enterprise architecture in general, right? IT architecture. So, and the problem is that if you have a badly designed foundation, it can be very it can be very difficult to evolve whatever you're working on because you're spending all your time maintaining and putting out fires and stuff like that. And so how do you actually do this? How do you evolve and improve on a building that has been badly constructed or badly designed or badly built, right? That's quite difficult.
I have to ask, because you made the analogy here. Usually when you build a house, you draw everything first and then you start building.
Yeah.
Do we always have can we afford ourselves that luxury when it comes to IT systems?
I don't think you cannot sit down for like 6 months and design an architecture. So you need to get the foundation right. That's the most important thing.
Okay.
But it also needs to be open for extensibility, right?
So it's a two-step process.
Exactly. So it should be ready for if you want to add a room to the house, or if you want to add a swimming pool.
Right.
Of course, the problem is, and that's actually what the thing that we want to talk about here is that the trends we're seeing is there's a lot of disruption going on. Right, so right now the buzzword of the decade is AI, right? Everybody's talking about AI. AI has to be, but the thing is, we see more AI as a way to get there to what we really want to achieve, and that is business transformation, right?
Right.
Because we want to make the business better, and what we're seeing right now is that AI can be the vehicle to that, but you need to get the data in place first, and that's what we're talking about architecture. What we're seeing. The trends is that, so you see these the enterprise architectures, you're ingesting some data, you're going through these maybe different layers of data enhancement, and then where the end goal is to get it out as a consumable product for your end users, right? The thing is, this is being disrupted, right? So this thinking, first of all, the AI-powered world is a big thing. And the way that we see this is that 80% of the world's data is all of a sudden is coming online, and this is the unstructured data that you have. You have the PDF files, you have the Word documents, everything that is sitting in SharePoint. How do you get that all of a sudden into your data platform? Then you need to have these specialists that are, they're building Python workloads that are ingesting data and everything. How can we make that easier, right? That's one thing. Because once you have this unstructured data, you need to join it with the structured data as well, right? So because this is basically what Hadoop tried to solve many years ago, but kind of succeeded, kind of didn't. But now it's being even more urgent with the advent of AI, right? So the generative AI, how do you actually apply that to your data, structured or unstructured, right? So that's one disruption. The other one is that we're seeing is there's a lot of reactivity towards migrating. Customers, they've been used to our companies that we work with. they've been migrating for the past 20 years, right, from one technology to another, and they're tired of that. And one of the things that has been coming out is the open table format. So we have Apache Iceberg, we have the Delta Lake, and these things that are kind of trying to solve that problem around, okay, so you have the data in an open format, and then you just bring the query engine or the whatever that you want to apply to that data.
Right.
That is also a trend we're seeing, so you can actually choose the right engine for the right job. And this
what about, because I don't know enough about this, what about unstructured data? Are these open formats already ready for that kind of stuff?
This is mostly around structured data, like the open formats. And so that is one of the things that we still use. You need to have a solution for that. And that's actually, I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but we have Snowflake has acquired a company called Datavolo, which is, they were focused on ingesting unstructured data, actually parsing unstructured data and putting it into a consumable format, right? That is something we're integrating right now into Snowflake. So that is one of the innovations I was going to talk about at the end, right?
Okay. Sneak peek.
Exactly, yeah. So that's a bit of stealing my thunder here. No, just kidding. So the whole point here is that this architecting for disruption is that the whole title is that we need to be open-minded about what can happen, and we believe at Snowflake that we are bringing this, adapting to whatever is coming of these disruptions. One of the things that we brought to the table in the past year is the hosting of large language models inside Snowflake, and basically commoditizing LLMs. So we are hosting Anthropic, we're hosting OpenAI models, we're hosting Mistral, Rika, Voyage AI, our own. So it's come to the point where DeepSeek was released in January. 2 days after it was open sourced, we had it running inside Snowflake. Nice. Llama 4, same day it was released, it was running inside Snowflake. So we kind of agilized that. And it's not where we are integrating, we're not sending the data to the model is running inside the Snowflake perimeter, right? So that's quite important for a company that it runs within the security perimeter, and you are quite sure that it's only your data that is being shared with that model, right, that is running. And that is what we're bringing. So this is just an example of this adapting to AI. So we have a very strong platform in Snowflake that can adapt to this. So these adaptable architectures, where you see here in the drawing is that is the possibility of having different business units using different architectures. So we're talking about agnosticity at many different levels here. It's being agnostic around different cloud providers. It can be different geographical regions. It can be different structured, unstructured data. And what I'm talking about here is the vision, right? This is like the idea that we're working towards. It doesn't matter if you're using on the top here in the middle, if it's GPU, CPU, that needs to be adaptable as well. So Snowflake has become this kind of abstraction layer that between infrastructure, the users, but also LLMs are just another kind of infrastructure right now. That is really what it's turning into.
Right. Service that people
it's
want
really
to have
service,
access.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're exposing it in Snowflake as a SQL function. Like there's a summarize function, and you choose which model is it. Is it going to be Llama 3B or is it going to be, whatever Mistral 64, whatever? And of course you're paying depending on the size of it. But it's you don't have to worry about the infrastructure and getting everything up and running.
Right.
You can take 1 million rows of transcriptions and just run it through in a batch format, and then some few minutes later you have the summarization, categorization, translation, right? These different functions that we.
That's convenient.
Yeah. So that's the idea, is that that you can extend this. And one of the things that we've maybe Snowflake has to get a bit better at, and we're working on that, is around integrating with other technologies, right? So one of the things is, the first step has been adopting Apache Iceberg.
Right.
We decided very specifically to go for that technology because it is what is many other providers are also, many other vendors are also converging on that exactly. What we're seeing was missing a bit was an open catalog as well, because all of a sudden the fight was not around who has a storage, but it's like who has a catalog.
Right.
So which catalog are you locking yourself into? Yeah. And what we did was created Polaris, Apache Polaris, which is an open catalog that we open sourced. And this is actually getting quite a lot of traction with companies like Dremio, ourselves, AWS are also diving into it, right? So that is what is going to be like the catalog of catalogs is what we're seeing here.
That's cool.
Yeah, we're quite optimistic about it. And in the end, what is the end goal here is that we want people to be able to work with data regardless of where it is. So the story like 6 years ago was you needed to load all the data into Snowflake, but now it's more around accessing the data where it is.
Okay.
So if it's on-premise, there might still be some needs to bring it in, but we also have storage integrations with on-premise, even that is catered for as well.
Wow.
So we're moving more and more towards that. Let's stop moving data around because that's quite expensive to move data around. Let's move code around instead because that is cheaper, right? Because it's smaller amounts of data, especially in cloud, it can be quite expensive to move data around, and also all the migration projects. Next step is like, what do you do about the business logic, right? That is also a kind of a lock-in. But where we believe, so now comes the product part, is like what Snowflake is this, like I mentioned before, it's this abstraction layer to the underlying infrastructure, to the underlying models, to the underlying platforms. that you don't need any knobs. Or we're trying to keep the number of knobs that you have to dial on down to keep it simple. It is a single product. We still only have one single product in Snowflake.
Right.
So you're paying for compute, you're paying for storage, but it's like you do one contract and then that's it.
Right.
You have different levels but that hasn't changed in the 12 years that Snowflake has been on the market, right? It's that's the way we're continuing to do it, and everything new, we just bring it in. We're spending a lot of time integrating new products into Snowflake, but because we want to have that same kind of no knobs, single product, it just works kind of experience with everything.
Right.
And that also applies to this latest to the latest innovations that we're talking about. So that's just want to round off with that, right? I can't say too much. I'm just going to flash this one up pretty quickly because we have our yearly summit in 1 month from now.
Okay.
So there's a lot of exciting announcements coming there, and so I cannot lift the lid on too many things here.
Right.
But a few of them are data volo I mentioned. So it's like 3 pillars. It's around data ingestion, it's around AI, and it's around governed collaboration. Those are the things we're focusing on.
Yeah.
How do you get data ingestion or data access easy? That is something we're working on with this Apache NiFi based platform that we're integrating into Snowflake. The open catalogs and table format I talked about, Apache Iceberg, Apache Polaris. So that's around getting access to data across organizations. I'm working with some really big companies that have 200 operating companies around the world in different countries, and they are actually deploying Snowflake in different, not in all places, but some of them, but they all still need to collaborate, right? They're still going to have that issue.
It's very cool that you're pulling in NiFi and other stuff to make it... there's many people that have not only an architecture preference, but skill sets that come from having worked with open source tools.
Exactly.
And being able to reuse those skills is very nice.
I mean, one example is also Streamlit, right? The Python library for creating visual applications. That is something it took a little bit long time integrating into Snowflake, but we got the security model right at the end. But that is also something we're still open sourcing it, right? So we have gone from this a bit more closed source company to being much more open source, where it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because our query engine is still like the IP, the intellectual property we have, and we need to have that close to ourselves so we can quickly develop.
But it has to do with leveraging the skills that people already have with them into using your tool.
Exactly.
People know how to use Streamlit.
Surrounding it.
People know how to use NiFi. Maybe they don't know how to write their own query engines.
No.
So maybe that's not quite as
so it's
critical.
The right place, absolutely right. So that's the idea. And then also around what we're seeing more and more is that there's also one of those buzzwords or one of those disruptions, you can call it, like around data products, data mesh. So data products is also something we're focusing a lot on. The internal marketplace is something we released in the last year, and that is about having your data sets with metadata around them and then being able to share them seamlessly within your organization. We have customers reacting really positively to that because it becomes quite easy to access data across
Maybe
domains.
This is a tough question because I asked you before about unstructured data.
Yeah.
How does that sort of play into the governance tools?
So the unstructured data is something you usually see that you store it in a place, but you need to activate it in some way, right? You need to get the data out. So parsing the data is one of the important things that we are working on, that we have working already. And that is, of course, getting that data into a structured format, but also reading the data where it sits. That is also something we're applying role-based access control on.
Are there data structures that are interesting, like vector databases and that kind of thing?
So we have under the hood, yes, we do like retrieval augmented generation within Snowflake, so we do like the chunking and everything, but again, we want to keep it simple for the users.
Right.
You can do it in the managed service way of doing it, just having Snowflake do it for you. But you also have the possibility of deploying your own models within, like RAG models within Snowflake, right? So you can set it up each your own way.
Right.
The important thing is that, for example, if you're feeding unstructured data to an LLM hosted in Snowflake, it will respect the role-based access control mechanism that you set up on the unstructured data, because in the end it's sitting in storage, right, in buckets, and you can define who has access to it and who doesn't.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so
that it inherits it automatically?
It inherits exactly from the storage, exactly. So that's like kind of like the thinking. Keep it simple, but still also make it available for people to work with.
Right. I see also that you have the Jamba models. That's pretty esoteric.
Yeah,
all sorts of crazy models here in your LLMs.
And it is usually around customer demand, right? For us, it's not that difficult to take a model and deploy it. We even have our own Snowflake Arctic model, right? That we more for like show. Okay, we actually have a pretty big research department, AI research department in Snowflake that is working on not only hosting these models, but also building applications on top of models, like these data agents, right? So there is going to be this possibility, this is something we're releasing soon, around having data agents connected and making the right choice, going to the right data depending on the question you're asking.
Right.
So multi-agent kind of setup as well. That is something we're adding to the mix as well.
That's cool.
Yeah. So just to finalize, it is in the end right to get the data architecture right. So that is what my team does. We go in and work with customers around building what is their data cloud looking like. And it's, again, we call it a data cloud, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a Snowflake data cloud. We are being more agnostic in that sense, especially in my team, where we're talking about interoperability. But of course, we want people to use Snowflake, and that's why we do it this way, right? And it's again, it's around interoperability, but it doesn't have to be complex.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good way to get people up to speed with all the news and changes.
And if people are here at...
and if they're more interested in the upcoming event, when is the upcoming event?
Snowflake Summit in San Francisco, it's in June. Otherwise, also you can reach out to the people in wherever they are in the countries. They're usually in the Snowflake office, so we can take it from there.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, thank you, Robert. Yeah.
Stay tuned for more exciting sessions.